Welcome everybody. This seems a logical place to put on something about a product that causes as many deaths in this state as our car accidents. So I'm sure all of you know a little bit about it. We'll give you a little bit of background on what radon is, what it does, how to work, and what you can do about it anyway. I'm Ron Lenth. I'm with Bremer Iowa State University Extension here. We put these on in numerous areas throughout the state. In the last month we put on about 4 of these, anywhere from Quasqueton to New Hampton to Tripola. We'll talk about it, what it is, and a little bit of everything about it. So we'll give you an idea what radon is. It's basically colorless, odorless, tasteless. We don't know if it's there or not. State of Iowa is one of the hotbeds for it. We'll show you a map here in just a little bit. In fact, Leah, you can just hand that, there's handouts for everybody. You can just pass that down the line on the, there's a packet for everybody there. So what we tried to do is, everything I cover today will be in this. Remember I had a course at Iowa State. I had to take Psych 101. I waited to my senior year to take it because I knew it'd be boring as could be. And the instructor did say one thing. He said, when you go through a meeting of mine or a class or a lecture, the most you can retain a half an hour later is 5%. So I'll tell you the 5% to remember, and the rest of it can kind of filter through. So in this case, what it is, it's a radioactive metal, normally found in Iowa soils. It's actually a form of uranium. And what happens is when it decays, it becomes radium, and then radium decays and goes into radon. So it's a decomposition thing in our soil. And these were brought down by the glaciers about 30 to 50,000 years ago that came from northeastern Canada in a southwesterly direction. So the upper Midwest is principally where you found it. So it's soil-borne. It's not in the air, it's in the soil. And we know it's a leading cause of lung cancer in non-smokers, which about 400 deaths a year in Iowa's ballpark figure. About as many people as we lose in car accidents. It'd be different if we were having down the interstate. Every once in a while you'll see 312 highway deaths. If we did that, we'd probably be more conscious of it. So that's a little bit what it is. State of Iowa's got the highest percentage of homes above what we call a mitigation level. Just remember the number 4. If you can remember 2 things, 2 numbers, remember the number 4 and the number 8. 4 is kind of the level you're looking for. So when I was talking to Brian earlier, when he went through mediation, got his down. State of Iowa, about 5 out of 7 homes are above that level. So if there's a dozen of us in here, that means about 3/4 of them will probably above that. State average in Iowa is 8. So the state average is about twice the mediation level. The highest number we ever recorded was 746. I'm not sure if that place glowed at night, but this is where it is. The red bars at the top there, those are the ones where all the counties that are above an average of 4. And so this case, you can see the entire state of Iowa, most of western Illinois, the western half of Minnesota, the Dakotas. And you look at Nebraska and they got yellow spots in the middle. That's the sandhills. Areas with a lot of limestone subbase like we have is where we tend to find it. So you see the southeast, southwest, the west coast, they don't really worry about it. Up here, definitely. You can see up in Maine, and what happened, those glaciers came across northeastern Canada and brought that with it. So that's how it got here. So this is the areas that we test. This is from the Iowa Radon Coalition, which is actually through the University of Iowa hospitals. That's the average for the areas. So you can see ours is about an 8 up in here. Northwestern Iowa is actually a little bit higher that way. So it does run by areas, a little less than southeast Iowa, but we're again all over 4. Individually can range all over the board. One of the things that's hard to do is you can't say, well, this house has it and this one doesn't. You could be a block away, one house would be fine, the next one high. So that's one of the big questions, and if we do nothing today that gets you to look at testing, that's all I can accomplish. Okay? First comes awareness, second comes getting something done. What it does, it interferes with the DNA in your lungs. It accumulates there because it's in its present form. And so in that radiation decay from the 3 different areas, that's where it can accumulate. And as you can see, the numbers of potential deaths in the U.S. range about in those levels. So about the same as drunk driving. And how does it get in our homes? Well, primarily through cracks or openings in the foundation, sump pumps that aren't sealed, old concrete joists. Those are how it does that. Because our homes are designed to be solid, if you think in terms of it, we don't want heat escaping. We actually invite it in many cases. Our homes are almost a vacuum if you think in terms of it. So like our furnaces, washing machines draw air in from the outside and brings it through. So that's how it gets started itself. And so it can come through either the water supply, very limited. Most of our water is treated pretty well, so our drinking water is not a major one. It's principally through the soil, the floor drains, cracks in our cinder blocks, etc. So that's its way of doing that. One of the questions that comes up, people say, well, golly, I don't have a basement, so I really don't worry about it. Well, if you stop and think about it, you're actually closer to the soil. But you could have a new house, an old house, basement, no basement, a crawl space, maybe not. So there's no real rhyme or reason why one has it and one doesn't. So the key thing is to test. Our water supplies are certainly show that's not been a problem. The key thing is there's very easy to use test kits. If you got a pencil and paper, I'll give, or if you need a sneak a pen, there's some over here. You can actually do those yourself. So if anybody needs a pen, I guess she'll pass them out. The toll-free number is 1-800-383-5992. I'll repeat that for you. 1-800-383-5992. That's the Iowa Radon hotline. It's actually at the University of Iowa Hospital. You can get these. They'll run about, they'll charge you for shipping, so it'll be about $15, something like that. So a small investment to see what your peace of mind and security could be. Real estate transactions, those need to be done by a certified radon person. The state of Iowa is very progressive about this. We actually, the same website that you go to there to get those, you can also go to, the best website is IDPH, Iowa Department of Public Health /radon. You can get the list of everybody that's certified by the state. I was at a national extension conference in Pennsylvania a couple years ago, and one of our extension people from Georgia did an article on that. And I was asking him about it, you know, how do you test for it and how do you manage it, and what if you need something done? He said, well, I don't know, we just get it tested. I said, do you have like a list of people that can fix it? Well, we haven't got that far yet. So that'd be like saying, okay, you got a problem, what are you going to do about it? So Iowa, those folks have to be certified. There's a listing, and you can get that also if they're certified. So you can get those. We talked about those. They take about 2 to 7 days. I call those kind of a screening kit. They give you an idea where you're starting at. I like to say if you're between the ages of 5 and 95, you can probably do them. So when we have other meetings, we actually get some in and have people do it. Only take a few minutes, read the kit. It tells you what to do. Follow the instructions. And that'd be like saying, okay, do we give them 7 cc's or 10 cc's? Okay, follow the instructions. Okay, very simple to do. Put it in the lowest part of the house you spend significant time, not the lowest part. If you've got a basement, the only time you go in the basement is to run the washing machine, probably not worthwhile. In our house, we have a 2-story with a walk-up basement. I have a office basement down there. My wife calls it several things, but I'll call it the man cave. I put it down there. You know, so if you spend a couple hours a day down there, or if you have a den where you spend time down there, or a bedroom, that's probably the best place to look for it. If not, then do the first floor. In other words, where you're at a long time. Try to avoid not the kitchen or the bedroom, the kitchen or the Bathroom because of extra moisture, heat, etc. What works best is really a bedroom because you're spending a lot of time there. And so that's the exposure thing to keep in mind. So bedrooms, dens are probably the best, and about 2 to 6 feet from the floor. So in my basement office, I just put it on a shelf. Try to make sure the windows and doors are shut. Well, this time of year, that's why we test them. The winter time will be your highest levels, and that's why we encourage doing that. So we might as well find out when it's stressed the most. Don't put it next to a heat or a humidity one, not in a draft area. And don't operate a fan that actually moves it around. We want to actually capture it. The kit itself has a small trap of activated charcoal. And when you get the kit, you'll actually circle on the kit when you started, what date and what hour, and then when you complete it, circle that date and hour, and it's in a postage page envelope, then you ship it to the factory. So that gives them an idea how long the test was activated. So for the short term, this is pretty good. If you find the first one's a little high, you may want to do a second one just for peace of mind. We'll give you some thoughts on this too. There are some that are real long-term that go from 3 months to a year if you want to get real exacting. For most people, the short-term one just gives us an idea what level we're at to start with. So what do the results mean? We said 4 is kind of the level to try to stay under. We call that the mitigation level. If you're under a 1.9, don't worry about it. That's probably the healthiest place to be. Here in Bremer County, of all the ones we've tested, that's I think 17%. So there was a colored chart around here a few seconds ago. So about 1 out of 5, there we go. About 1 out of 5 here in the county are under 1.9. If you're between 2 and 3.9, you're still below the level, and they recommend maybe checking them every couple of years. Or if you do a major remodeling of your home or something, that might be a time to do it. About 40% of ours in Bremer County in that level. So it gives us an idea where we're at this level. If you're between 4 and 9, probably do a second test. Here in Bremer County, 48% of them, the ones we test, are above 4. So roughly about half of them. So that's what our figures are looking at. It's interesting, over in Bryan's country there in Dubuque County, but at Elmakee and Clayton and Winneshiek, up along the river, they're closer to 60 to 70% over 4. So that's what we're looking at. So that's what your opportunities might be. If you're over 8 or above, then you might want to look at taking another test to be on the safe side in case the first one might not have been accurate. If you're over 80, that's red flag, really red flag. Especially the one came in at 740. They were on the phone about 2 seconds later. That one got fixed. So how does it affect people and you in the medical field here, for example? On the left is usually the different levels. The second column there for every 1,000 people on non-smokers and smokers, how many that can die of lung cancer as an average. So if we took an average of, say, 8, which is the state average in Iowa, that would tell us among non-smokers about 15 out of 1,000 would have that potential for lung cancer. If they're a smoker, it magnifies 8. So a smoker in a home with radon needs to do something. Not just because they're smoking, but just look at the change between non-smokers and smokers. So there's part of the lesson. Now, how do we reduce it? Well, there's several ways. Number one, you can use that through sealing your sump pumps. Some pumps have conceals that are available. Most of your building supplies people can do that. If not, it's just a hole with a bunch of pipe coming out of it, some places. So if sealing it helps to keep it in the ground. Probably the thing that we usually hate to check the most are these little drains in our showers, etc. in the basement, not wanting to find out what might be underneath it. So clean those out just to make sure they're working properly. If you've got some cracks in the walls, just about everybody's probably got those, some more than others. Also check the crawl spaces at the same time. Now, if you do install one, make sure this person's has credentials and is state certified, and that list you can get from that website we told you about. We have one here in Bremer County that's on that list that does a lot of work. Typically what this does, or this mitigation system, what they're trying to do is eliminate from your home. So what they do is they put a suction tube through the basement or the sump pump and then into the soil and up through the building. What this is trying to do is to eliminate it. Because it's a gas, it goes from low to high. Okay? Typically, most of those will also have a fan system on it to help draw it into the unit. It looks like a big PVC pipe. In many cases, that's what it is. Cost-wise, it depends upon the size of your home. If you've got a one-story, two-story, that type of thing, between $800 and $1,500 is probably kind of common. But this is actually what it looks like. Most of the new homes constructed here in Iowa the last number of years now have a gravel base underneath the concrete. That's actually acting as an additional filter, so to speak. They drill it into the concrete, into the gravel itself, through the story of the building, either through the roof or first or second story. And that has a fan that draws it up and then pushes it out over the top. So don't worry about if your neighbor's got one. I mean, it dissipates. We just want to get it out of the way. And so they have to be certified by the State Department, and that's that list that you have access to itself. Now, what about if you've got a home, if you're going to sell it? We had one meeting where we talked about this part. The sweet little old lady says, well, if I test it and I'm going to sell my house, well, if they find it, what should I do? I won't be able to sell it. Well, I'm going, well, ma'am, another way to look at it is you're low, you can charge more for it. Oh, I can? Values changed real quickly. So, yes, it's one of the things now that's part of the Home Buyers Protection Program. So, that's part of the real estate program they have today. And this is where you can get more information on it. And that's the Department of Public Health at Des Moines. Gives you whole details what it's all about, how to manage it. The key thing is test it. If you do nothing more than test it, at least gives you peace of mind. Okay? If I've done that much today, I've done all I can. Okay? That's what we tried to do. Now, the handout we gave you here, there's a couple things to keep in mind. We get this handout from the Iowa Department of Public Health. The first page there is actually the flyer that they send out. If you go to their website, I've saved you the time and effort. Now, you could go through material about this thick. These are 4 or 5 pages. This is about all you need to know about it. Short, sweet, and simple. So if you turn over to the second page there is the 10-step program. And that tells you kind of what to look for. And the first thing they say, first off, they say don't panic. I just say remain calm. That's like if somebody's crawling up the side of a building and they say don't look down. What do? You don't look down, right? So just look up. Glass half empty, half full. Okay. So the key there is, first off, test for it. The short-term test we talked about. Find out your level. Brian, you want to share your experience?
When we bought our house, we had them test it before we signed, and it was like 17, 18. And then we had them pay for mitigation, put it in, and we tested afterwards. We found 3. Yep. And so I actually have a kid at home right now that I need to set up and test it again. About 7 years ago was the last time it was tested.
It can change over time a little bit, but most of it, if you do some remodeling or something like that, why one house is high, the next one is, we don't know. It seems like doesn't make any difference if it's a new home, an older home, 1-story, 2-story, basement, no basement, farm, country, etc. So test it, find out where you're at, even if you're renting an apartment. So I sold peace of mind too. Intriguingly, one of our extension offices here in Iowa actually moved their office because they found they were high. We actually put the program on, and the office manager says, Well, we had to test our building once. So they now have a new building. They actually, I think they were looking for an excuse to move, and this just kind of gave a little extra ammunition. So,
are businesses held to a standard on, do businesses need to test, or is it just residential?
Any building, I mean, heck, we didn't address it in here, but for example, daycare centers, they're required to be tested within 2 years, and then yearly after that. The one that's kind of the sleeping dog in Iowa, there's no rules or regulations for schools. A couple years ago, the school system in Cedar Rapids looked at doing something, and when they figured out what the cost would be, it would almost break the school system. So that's one of those mixed blessing things. But that's up to the state and our legislatures what to do. It was brought up, but it was lost in a committee. But does that answer your question? Okay. But yeah, that's nursing homes, probably another one that should be doing it. A lot of them probably never have. Nobody's ever asked. So that's where you could be a little bit of a messenger as you're talking to people too. Good. Other questions?
How often would you recommend retesting your home?
They say probably every 3 to 5 years, unless you've done some major remodeling or something. Yeah.
So let's say I grew up in a house, like my parents wouldn't have ever tested for this.
Sure.
So has the damage been done? Or, I mean, do we test folks?
Sure. Excellent question. First off, we don't know. The other thing that's confusing about this, you can have some people live in a home with high numbers for 50 years and never have problems. Why? We don't know. I got a daughter with immune deficiency problems. Why it happened to her? Only one person knows, and he hasn't shared the answer why. But that's just part of life. So probably the best thing to do is just test it and find out. You know, we can't change the past, but we can change the future. So a lot of these things are gray answers. You know, I feel like a politician sometimes. Good. Excellent question. Any others? Well, that's the material we got for you there. Short, sweet, and simple. Hopefully you get a chance to test it. Got questions? I'll leave my card here for Amanda. Of course, she won't be here very long for some reason. But yeah, you bet. So I'll leave a card here. If you guys ever got questions, just give us a call. Appreciate it. I guess we'll be back in May for another program for you. So thanks for your time today. And if you've got questions, just call. Thank you.